in live now, Niiamah, but I definitely want to, let's talk about that if you're open to it. I think that's fantastic. And maybe gain some awareness about that program.
I'm open to everything.
I know you are. I love that. Okay, I think we're streaming live, so I'm just gonna check on my YouTube. We should be. Hello, all friends and folks. I see us, Niiamah. This is wonderful.
Some of that for this year, so
amazing. So I think we should be coming live now, Niiamah. But I definitely want to. I'm not watching the live. We're here. So I absolutely love connecting with you, Niiamah, all the time. Every single time we've connected, it's been a huge gift to me. And so I'm really especially grateful that we get to do it in a different type of forum today. So thank you for exploring, and in true Niiamah fashion, we're open and we're just gonna flow.
That feels perfect to me. Brooke, I really do appreciate you making this invitation. I was sharing to my people earlier. I was like, the reason I said yes to this is just that, like, I wholly trust you. There has not been a single conversation that I've been in that hasn't been life changing for me. And to be able to have, without knowing where this conversation's going to go, and without having to have any specific like destination for it, I can see just like I just come in with this as knowing of impact there. So just, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be in conversation with you. I'm excited.
Something I really appreciate about you, and I'm glad you used that phrase about life-changing conversations, is that's how you live. That's how you show up in the world. And so, of course, in some way, I know today will be life-changing. So one of the other contexts I wanted to bring to us today, in addition to that awesome thing around life-changing conversations. Oh my goodness. I was on your website. I have a blast with everything that you do. And one of the things you do is you speak so beautifully about what it means to be an outlier, a pioneer, and a maverick. An outlier being the only, one of the only, a maverick, or let's go to pioneer first, being the first, and a maverick being one of a kind. And you are all those things, and you're passionate about what that looks like. And I'd love to hear how that came to be. Like, why is that important? Tell us about how you are an outlier, pioneer, and maverick.
Brooke, I'm so grateful that you're asking this question right now, because I'm realizing, so right now there's race is like, it's a conversation that like we can talk about, right? There's elements of blackness, whiteness, all these things that are like, it just feels like, oh, okay, now is the time to be safe in talking about it. I know for myself, I'll continue to have these conversations and be able to allow for that to be a part of the conversation. But I don't think I've really been able to express why I do the work that I do, because a big part of it is because, like, look, honestly, in my mind, I became a black man at age 30. I've always had this like skin suit, like I've always looked this way, right? I was younger at the time, but like I became a black man at age 30. It was like when that when systemic racism and institutionalized racism really became apparent, and I realized that, like, oh, yes, I went to an Ivy League school. Yes, I worked at one of the top 4 consulting companies on the planet. Yes, I was an actuarial candidate. Yes, I worked in a tech company back in what, 2015 to 2017, right? Like, all those things I had taken on as just me, as like, this is just how I navigate life, uh, and things that I had independently earned. But there was an element that happened when I realized, I watched the documentary called White Like Me, and it was like, and it's not lost on me that it was a white man talking to other white men, and that's when I was like, oh, wait a minute, this thing of systemic, it's like racism exists. Like, there's a lot of people right now that I feel are like in like they're trying to reconcile, like they're trying to reconcile racism and all that right now. That was me like 4 years ago on my own elements, because I had pushed it away for so much. This is important because up until then, I've been a statistic in a lot of different ways. When I was working to be an actuary in America, I was invited into a focus group organized by one of the societies around it, one of the governing bodies around the actuarial profession, and they said, 2 to 3% of all actuaries in America are African American. You know, when I was working in tech. There was a statistic, and they're like 2 to 3% of all people working in tech in America back when I was there. It was African American, right? And then I watched this video, and I was like, and uh, it hit me. I was like, oh, hold on, wait a minute, what? I'm like, I'm really not supposed to be here. This 2 to 3% thing is like it's pervasive in every place that I showed up. I actually sang in a barbershop chorus. So it's like 0.2 to 0.3% four-part harmony. It's really interesting. But I kept finding myself in these different places. And what ended up coming, I'm really happy about my 30-year-old self for choosing this way. But it's like it wasn't like this is something that was like a bad thing, or like the whole world is wrong. It was just like, okay, I'm someone that's like, how is it possible that I have consistently been in this statistic of 2 to 3%? I call it a 2 to 3% club, right? How is it possible that like I've consistently been in places and been one of those people that's been able to be included in that statistic? 97 and 98% of other people who might have wanted to be here may not have had that opportunity. And if I am here, what am I doing with it? What am I doing with it? And I think that there it like was the start, the foundation of me actually starting to call out people who are also in the 2 to 3% club in their own ways. Right. I identified with it from taking it on, from like understanding like, oh, I'm a black male and there's elements that come along with that. But I had been involved in diversity and inclusion efforts within my organizations. And every time that they did it, I would almost never participate in anything that was called Black anything, because I just didn't want to be labeled or put in a box. Like the approaches that typically happen with it are very siloed. They're like, let's be diverse and inclusive. So everyone go off into your own specific silos and, and go figure it out. And eventually maybe we'll all come together on it. So that led me to look at it and say, what is a way of being able to help people who are different or see the world differently or have different experiences be able to own who they are in a way that doesn't put them in the typical boxes? It is not something that even people even have like a definition of. People don't know what an outlier is, or a pioneer or a maverick. We have our own interpretations, but it's open, right? And it's a label that people can choose. And it still captures a lot of like, at least from my experience, I'm first generation out of Africa. I'm American, but I'm first generation out of Africa. There's a lot of things that I've done where I was one of the first. There's a lot of things where I've done where that whole outlier, that's a statistical like term, right? It's like a part of the data set that's like doesn't seem to necessarily be there.
So
Yeah,
Niiamah, what about, so the people that aren't in the 2 to 3% in this specific category that you had this
yeah,
realization, you're 30,
yeah,
you're like, oh, I'm the 2 to 3% because I'm a black man and I
yeah,
went to an Ivy League school and I'm an actuary.
yeah.
What what do you wish those 98% knew? What do you wish they could see
Mm.
through your eyes?
I think at the end of the day is that like I'm having a hard time answering this because it isn't and this is something that's evolved, but it's not like, oh, I'm in the 2 to 3% club and others aren't, and there's something that they're missing. The whole thing about this is that I don't see myself as different from anyone else. There's a part of me that's just like, how is this consistently the case, right? There's parts where I ask myself, and it's been interesting, Brooke. I'm glad you asked this, but I'm like, I've asked myself and really challenged myself and confronted myself. I'm like, am I part of the 2 to 3% club because like I just feel more comfortable being like in a place where there's not a lot of other Black people, for example, like there's elements of how I have chosen to live life, which is and in adopted more whiteness in the way that I operate, in the way that I talk to people and such, that I think that made it easier for me to get into the 2 to 3 2 to 3% club at that time. But like, I have no interest in trying to go to people and say like, hey, this is how to get in. That's not it. My thing is like, how do we spread this out? Like, I don't want to be an outlier from that perspective. I want to be an outlier in other regards, but not from that perspective. So yeah, I don't think. Yeah, there's this element of like, we're all the same, that really comes through. It doesn't feel like there's a big difference there.
I think it's a super highly conscious awareness to say that, and I appreciate it. When I met you, you went by Niiamah,
Hmm.
and now you use your name Niiamah. And when you were talking about maybe adopting some whiteness, or like participating in a white culture, was Nemo part of that? And then like what evolved into to claiming Niiamah?
Yeah.
Did
I say it again.
this around this discovery process?
Yes and no. I'm gonna say it feels mainly no, but at the same time, I'm like, in terms of the actual triggering moment, it was a yes, right? So I can't say that it's no completely. When I took on the name Nemo, I was 14 years old. I had felt like, there's a space beyond outlier, which is like outsider, and so for someone to give me a nickname, really meant a lot to me. And people were giving me nicknames at that time that were like, they were trying things out. They're like, we're not going to call you Niiamah. We're going to have a great nickname: Duracell, Nantucket, Good Burger. Um, there are also people who are calling me Special Dark Chocolate and Black Guy as my nickname. And so when Nemo came up, it was like the term of endearment that was also like fairly neutral. In Latin, it does mean no one, but it like, there was an element of like, oh, well, if it means no one, then like, I'm not sticking out. I'm just one with everyone. That's how I took it. All right. Um, I won't lie, like, Nemo has been absolutely wonderful for me. It's like, I think it helped me get into various areas, into various places. One of my things is that I've learned how to quickly create safety for other people, because when other people feel unsafe, that is what is actually unsafe for me. Right. When people are in their power, I think it's one of the reasons I love spending time with you, because you're consistently in your power, And so like, I can just be, when people haven't done the work of like really understanding themselves and being able to be fully in their own presence, like, that's actually a danger to me. Right. And so Nemo was a really great way to just like come in, and they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I'm like, "My name's Nemo, like the fish." And it'll be and this is like, there's a bit of this here. Yeah, yeah, you can see it. Yeah, Nemo, like the fish. The smile came up there, and it all helped me get through. The turning point for me happened. I'm a part of a mastermind of coaches, and in that mastermind, we were all in a circle, and someone challenged me on two things. One person challenged me. They said, "Why do you use the name Nemo when you have such a beautiful birth name of Niiamah?" Right? And I heard it, and Brooke, honestly, I heard it, and I was like, like, I've heard this here. Like, I am Nemo. Like, this is what I did. Thanks, but no thanks. Right? And then shortly afterwards, there was a man in the circle who came up, and he said, "I'm going to say this because I think, because you need to hear this. I'm going to say it loudly. You, the way that you talk is an apology. You're apologizing for who you are. You don't need to make other people feel safe." When he said that, Brooke, it was as if there was like, I cannot, it's as if there was a chasm that opened up within me. And like, he was speaking to something that I didn't even know needed to be healed. He said, "You are a big, black, beautiful man. And when you are all of that, we get you. We understand you. When you are coming off velvety and creamy and all around white, that's when there's a disconnect. And we don't know what it is, but it causes us, it makes us feel actually more unsafe, because we don't know what's going on. There's something off there. So, know two things. One, you being you and bringing all of you makes us feel safe. And two, it's not your responsibility. You don't have to make us feel safe. It's not something you have to take on. And it was just a message that I didn't know I needed to heal, to hear, and to have, I didn't even know I needed to heal. Had no idea. Although my business was all about, hey, you're a different person, you're an outlier, you're a pioneer, you're a maverick, you're one of, like come and be more you. And it was just me trying to tell that to myself the whole way through. And
Well,
I think it got caught in that gravity, but that's when I made out and I said, Niiamah's time.
it's beautiful because we often are pursuing and helping and supporting in the area that is most going to shift us. So I mean, it makes sense. So Niiamah, as a thank you today, and just an honoring of our time, I'm going to be doing a donation in your name, and the organization that you brought to my attention that you want to put it towards is the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And I'm bringing that up because there was a quote on their website from Thurgood Marshall, because part of the defense fund is a part of an organization associated with his honor. And this quote, I would love to say it to you, and hear how it fits into your experience with your name and being called out to be your authentic self. So he said, in recognizing the humanity of our fellow beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute. In recognizing the humanity of our fellow beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute.
Oh, all right. I'm just allowing that to land. And what's also happened is I'm just question. I got my initial reaction, and then I'm also just exploring if there's anything else that goes beyond that that's a little bit deeper. And so, for the in recognizing the humanities of others, I think that's the first part that really sticks out for me here. Um, Look, I'm now stepping into this space, and when I say step into, I'm like leaning into and stepping into a space of being able to talk very openly about race and racism. Like this is uncomfortable for me, or let's say this, in this moment it doesn't feel as uncomfortable, but like Nemo and Niiamah, this, we didn't touch this stuff, right? And I think that the humanity element of this that really is playing through for me right now is like how much of this is still like rooted and has an emotional component to it. The emotional component, the humanity that I'm feeling right now, is I'm having conversations with people, and there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of shame, and separately a lot of guilt, right? And they're like two different elements, and just seeing like how people genuinely, like genuine people, are earnestly wrestling with like new realizations of trying to reconcile, like how can I believe, like how can I have believed everything that I have believed, but the foundations upon which it was built on was systemically unjust, you know? Like there's a lot in there that's taken place. And I think that for me, and I think we've had conversations about this here, where it's like, look, sometimes like there's a lot that's happening to take on a new way of looking at the world. Like to like I really feel for people whose foundations of how they've seen the world, or the foundations of themselves in life, are being challenged right now. I really really feel for that. And I think that's where like the humanity part comes in. I also feel for me, there's an element of humanity that shows up from the standpoint of whether or not, like how we are actually like interacting with each other. Brooke, I'm gonna call out something real quick. On my end, you froze on my
Yeah,
end.
I
Like
just
did
got
I?
that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna just adjust something real quick,
Okay.
and keep going because I think we're still
Okay.
getting it. And I appreciate this level of compassion
Yeah.
that you're really describing compassion, and seeing maybe your own guilt, shame, confusion, and then being able to see yourself in others that have a different experience of it. It's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
what
I
I'm
think
hearing.
I just generally feel like as individuals, as individuals and as a collective, we are like we're being confronted with things that are with the truth. Let's just like, I'm not going to try, like this is me trying to catch myself, making sure I'm like, am I trying to keep someone safe here? We're being confronted with the truth. And in that confrontation there, that's where I'm like, I'm feeling humanity. I'm feeling the pain, I'm feeling the suffering, I'm feeling the feelings of guilt and shame and confusion and like I mean, I say this really honestly. I was 30 years old when I became a black man. Like that mean I went through 30 years of trying to of actively not seeing what my parents were telling me, what my friends were telling me, what TV was telling me. Well, like there were all these different things where it's like, come on. I was 3 decades of my life. Of course, I knew there was like systemic racism, but I couldn't actually take it in. And so that's one part about the humanity part that really hits me. I think the other part about humanity right now is that we are.
Let's see if we're good. Okay, I'm
Okay,
so
cool.
apologetic.
No, no worries. I'm out here just talking. I'm like, just in case it's still going, I'm running through. We're running through the finish line, but I'd rather be back in conversation with you. So welcome back.
Okay, this is a joy. What a joy. So seeing the humanity in others,
the audio
is that
of your
what you're talking
other
about? What beautiful stuff did I miss?
Yeah. So, okay, you're back here. The audio of the other one is still on, so I just want to call that out.
I
here.
know. This is just a crazy experience. Yeah. This is just a crazy experience. This is just, I'm leaving here. Crazy. I'm leaving.
So let's do this one.
How are you doing now, my friend?
Let me see. Let's do this. I will, if you can hear me, I'll speak to some of what was coming up there. I think the biggest thing, Brooke, is if you can mute the original one. I think that will open up
I have.
You have not. Your video is muted.
I've muted the other one.
Okay. So now let's try. Okay. So are you still with me? Because what I can do is I can just play. I can just keep going. I cannot hear you now, just so you know. But there's this element here of, and just interrupt me at any point when you come in.
Okay. You can hear me now.
I can hear you. Okay, I can see you. Okay. It's wonderful.
My goodness, I missed you.
I missed you too, Brooke. So yeah, you know what? Like let's do this here. Let's do this. Why don't we? What I needed to say around that has been said, right? I think that like there's an element of this that like I would love to just get back into conversation with you around it. Just that there was two parts of that quote in my mind. It was about the humanity part, and what was the second, the latter part? What was the second part of
it? So then we're giving ourselves a highest tribute. Yeah. That we pay ourselves a highest tribute.
Yeah, I think that there's for me what comes from that is in recognizing the humanity that like of this year and the fact that we are all humans. We're in the middle of COVID-19, a global pandemic right now, and like to me the thing that I see is humanity showing up, humanity going and saying like, wait a minute, we are like let's get back to the core of who we are. Collaboration, care, connection with one another. You know, we're stepping out, we're trying new things. Going live is like people do it now. You know, being on Zoom, it's not like we don't have to. We're just leaning into it all. And I think that part about the highest tribute for me that runs out is, for me, the highest tribute is to be able to be unapologetically myself at this current moment, at this time. That's how I define it. And so the more that people are leaning into that humanity, the more compassion, the more work that we're doing with one another, they're actually creating more space for me to actually feel safe, because I do not feel safe on a day-to-day basis in my life. And so to be able to have and it's funny because I think a lot of people feel unsafe. I'm a big black man, you know, and yet at the same time, like I don't feel safe. Like I put out there, I was like, white women scare me the most in the world. So like I always know if they've done the work. And so there's this element here that just feels really nice around like, yeah, from the highest tribute perspective, I feel that it's like, yeah, I feel like I can be me, and then afterwards we can play again, you know?
And I love that, because just like your friend at the mastermind said to you, the coaching said to you, like, I love you as yourself. Like, that's what we want. We want Niiamah as himself. So feeling safe, you know, I take for granted. And there's like things in my life that maybe I would feel unsafe in a situation, but it's not something I'm consistently thinking about. So I just really thank you for sharing that. One thing that amazes me about you is you can notice that, you can be alert to safety, you can be alert to people's guilt, you can be alert to like internal shame. You're really like conscious and present to all of it. And you still find a way to be very visionary. And I hear you talking about what it could be like, and like, look at what's happening in humanity and look at these opportunities. Talk to me about your vision for like what's possible now, and what would be just what brings you joy when you imagine it could happen.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for the acknowledgement on that. I think that's something that is. Uh, Let me put it this way: this conversation is a representation of the vision that I have. Right, I don't have to go out to the future to experience it. And for me, it is to bring it into the present in every single thing I do. There's no future I'm trying to get to. It's a possibility that I'm living, and it's a possibility that I can show up fully and unapologetically with someone that I care about, and we can talk about things that matter, and we can collaborate in different ways. And whatever happens, whether there's technology issues, whether there's a misunderstanding between us, and all this, like, we can just be. And through that we can like that to me is like really at the core of it all for me, the element of. So I just want to say that like this is a representation and a model of what the future is that I hold, the possibility that I hold. I have another part. There's another part of this answer I think is important. Like, I can talk about the vision. I talk about, for me, I believe in world joy, right? We know world war, right? Which is based on competition. Usually our ideal scenario is world peace, and I'm like, meh. It's only like like
Yeah,
it's
that
about it's
sounds
about
like fun for a
cooperation.
day. Sounds fun
Yeah,
for a day.
but like think about it. Look, it's like, all right, what if we were all just peacefully living in our own bubbles, in our own, like, whatever, like, we're all just in our own world, peacefully coexisting with one another. There's an element of it that, like, I just think, like, it as a status quo would, like, it doesn't energize me. And my general thing is, like, if world peace is like this huge, like, thing that it feels so unattainable to people, then why are we setting our sights so low? And that's when I came up with world joy, which is like this idea of, like, all right, if we had competition with world war, cooperation with world peace, what would collaboration look like? And that to me is like a world where we're all able to collaborate. And then I'm like, well, if we're all collaborating, this goes back to the outliers, the pioneers, the mavericks. It's like, well, like, what really makes collaboration excel is not you and I can both do the same thing. So let's both do that and just do more of it. It's, wow, you bring something different to the table and I bring something different to the table. And now we're both bringing the things that make us different to create something that couldn't have been done before, to allow us to be one of the first to do it, or whatever it is. Like, that is what I see being possible for us.
And like you were bringing up earlier, that authenticity piece. So
Mhm.
in order to be able to come to the conversation or the table and be your full self, that's where the real collaboration is happening. So when what is the barrier that we could shift through, that we could heal? Like, what is the work, when you've used that phrase, the work, so that we
Yeah.
can show up with that authenticity and be in that world joy collaboration state?
Okay. I want to answer that question. I realize there's one other thing I need. If I don't say it, it's going to plague me. Is that all right if I put that in there? And then we'll come back to this one?
Of
Yeah, I think
course.
it's time. All right.
Of course.
I think there's an element here of, I just shared my individual possibility to what I stand for, right? But I think we're actually in a really amazing time of living on this planet. And because what most people see as uncertainty, I see as, like, malleability, right? This is like the world as we know it is, like, ripe for the shaping. And so there's an element here of, like, I'm sharing my possibility, but I think that part of the work is, like, how do we come up with a new collective vision? What new collective possibility? What is the container that allows the way that I would love, like, the solutions, the specific point solutions that I see? Notice I didn't talk about very many of them in my vision. What's the container that allows for the point solutions that I see in my world to also allow for the point solutions that you see in your world? It blows my mind sometimes, because I'm like, I think we all want the same thing.
Mm.
I think we all want the same thing. So why is there so much angst? Why is there so much conflict? Why is there so much anger? Why is there so much blame? Why, can we just come back to the fact that we all want the same thing? We might have different things that this goes back to the humanity part. People I'm I'm American, and when President Trump was elected, there was a lot of people who were like, I just can't believe it. Their minds were blown. Uh, and they're like, well, I'm shutting the door to this person. I'm defriending this person. I can't believe my parents voted for Trump. Like Thanksgiving is going to be so awkward, all that. And in my mind, there's actually a Facebook Live of me. Yeah, like seriously, there was a Facebook Live of me going on because I was practicing gratitude at that time, Brooke. I was practicing, and every day I was like, I'm going to go on Facebook Live and I'm going to share 3 things I'm grateful for. And the biggest test for me came the day after the election, or the day, because I was like, am I still going to find gratitude? Am I going to keep my practice right now? Am I going to be silent, or am I going to go online? So it's out there, and the thing that I said was like, this is now a time more than ever for us to be coming together, right? So all this ties in here because I have we have our individual possibilities, but it's like the communal possibility that I'm also really excited about, and how we can shape that. And then go into your part. Let me pause there because obviously I have a lot to say about this here. I know
Please
that
do.
there's the authenticity part too that I can also get to, but let me just check in with you here.
I love it, Niiamah. I think that's super, super powerful and exciting. You're living the humanity piece,
Yeah.
right? And you're honoring that, like, the collaboration has to happen because we do all want the same thing. We want to feel safe, right? Not only are you like, I don't want to feel unsafe in my day to day, you don't want people around you to feel unsafe. They don't want to feel unsafe. We want to have belonging, and we want to have dignity. Those are our, like, that's who we are as humans on this planet. So yeah, why are we not having that?
Yeah.
So I love that you're bringing that up. Thank you.
Yeah. That to me it's a really important standpoint. So we have like individual work that we're doing, but there's also like how do we come together as a global team, right? And by as a global team, it could be in your family, it could be in your workplace, it could be with your friends, it could be like through the platforms that you lead as a thought leader, or a business owner or an entrepreneur, so on and so forth. There's so many different ways that we can bridge that down, but it comes down to like, what are we doing to, if we're looking for that belonging, if we're looking for to experience life as humanity, if we're looking for safety, the safety to like make sure we can put food on our family's table and so on and so forth, and like what is getting in the way of that? What is really getting in the way of that? And so I'm trying to figure some of that out myself, right? I don't have the answers per se. Some of my hypothesis that I am leaning into, and the way that I'm laughing right now, I'm calling myself out for laughing, and I'm now acknowledging that I'm laughing. But the thing that I say is like, I'm like, look, I don't have the answers right now. I am not, but um, but what I do know is that I feel like I'm asking better and better questions every day, and sometimes like if we're not asking the right questions, then the answers that people give are irrelevant, right?
Yes.
And the second part is, and this is what really made me laugh, I've been avoiding saying this, is that one day people are going to be writing books about the work that I did right now. I don't know what it is, but people are going to come back and they're going to come out and they're going to distill how the conversations that we are having right now were a
Yeah.
part of it. People are going to come back and look at the work that you did, and then later come and say, this is what happened. We're not in a stable enough environment to go and say, to have any kind of prediction is hubris, you
Mhm.
know? But like, I also still feel that I can create and shape the future. How? Through my present moment, So let me
So
pause.
yeah, beautiful. And one of the ways that I think that those people that are going to write books about you, one of the things I think they're going to say, I think they're going to acknowledge and talk about energy and the ability to be in joy, which actually cultivates a position of strength, a position of power. And while things like anger, sadness, grief are absolutely, we need to feel them. There are so many things to be angry about right now. There are so many things to be absolutely heartbroken about. And that's a really hard place to come on a daily basis and try to enact change. So what I'm really seeing in you, and I know this of you, is being in the present moment is allowing you to be in that joy, or like being in a tapped in state is, that's, you know, when you talk about mavericks and pioneers, when the world gets changed, it's through those people. And being one of those people is it requires a lot of energy. So I that's just what's coming up. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Please.
How are you caring for yourself? What does that mean?
I am so happy you talked about this here. So there's a few things. First, do you mind if I just reflect and express gratitude first? Okay. So yeah, Brooke, like, oh, I can feel something coming behind my eye here. I am deeply appreciative of you because we had a conversation maybe a year back or so, and the conversation was around love, and you brought up the term dynamic love. And when you said that to me, it opened up a lot of new possibilities because I had been feeling disconnected. People talked about love. They're like, just bring love to it. I'm like, I don't know I don't know what you mean. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. There's just a big disconnect. And through our conversation, I remember before leaving, I was like, oh, I get it. Like, dynamic love is the kind of like the kind of love that doesn't just need to look like lovey lovey, like all that. It's like you can be angry in love. You can have sadness in love. You can have joy in love. And what came up for me was it dawned on me that I actually express love through gratitude. So I'm even realizing, like, in this conversation, there's a lot of appreciation that I'm sharing. There's a lot of gratitude that I have for you, and it's like part of my way of showing love. And I think that ties into joy as well. I think that ties into joy as well for me, where it's like joy for me is not happiness, right? Like, and it took me like when I came out and I was all about joy. I was like, the World Joy Movement. My business was called Enjoyment, you know, and what I realized was that, like, it was actually too narrow. The way that other people looked at that word was too narrow of a definition. So my definition of joy is the unabashed and unapologetic expression of self, right? When I think about joy, it's like I'm not holding back. This is I'm expressing myself and I'm fully in the expression. When I have felt like right now, like me showing up here, there's joyful in it, but I am still angry. I am angry at, like, I'm angry at the way that the world has been set up. I'm angry in a lot of different areas. So, like, but like both of them exist. And when you were talking about earlier, when you were calling out some things, I said I'm really appreciative of you because I think it occurs to a lot of people. They get confused when I say, like, when I let them know, like, I'm angry. It's like they're like, but wait, you're like one of the most joyful people I know. You're always have a smile on. You know, I'm like, I'm angry enough that I quit my job and I started a whole business to get people to wake up and, like, own who they are and show up and, like, own their own like difference in the world. Because if they aren't doing their work, then I don't get a chance to play. I'm frustrated. I'm like, I don't get to do the same. I don't get to do the same. You know, there's an edginess to it all there. There's joy because I think about what that expression would look like. There's joy because I'm like, you know, in a lot of ways I've had a lot, and in a lot of other ways, like, I haven't really even gotten a chance to experience it. It wasn't until I came out to Singapore that I lived, like, I was like, oh, what is it like to not have to be afraid just because of the color of your skin? Like, it was a weird experience.
And so have you felt like being in Singapore where you don't have that concern as regularly, you know, or do you feel that your expression has changed, that you've been able to be fully in your expression?
I think that there is a more full expression that comes out. There's a more full expression. I do feel I'm grateful for this opportunity to. It's because I didn't realize what the world was like. I didn't like. Okay, there was I didn't realize what oppression was, right? I didn't realize how much I was already carrying it with me. I didn't realize, like, what I do to make other people feel safe, and then to be in a place where you no longer had to do that. You know, no, like, it was just really different. I didn't realize, like, the impact of, like, other people's stories that they may have of me. Here, I'm seen as American. You know, like I'm also, like, yes, I'm black, but there's, like, I'm seen as American, and there's the things that come along with that. You know,
well, it's
so
interesting because, like, there's heavy things that we carry, like, so we're carrying other people's stuff with us, and we're so resilient as human beings, we don't recognize it. So, you know, and this example or this paradigm has been reflected before, but the idea of like an abusive relationship and not recognizing you're in an abusive relationship. So you're 30 years old and you watch White Like Me or Black Like Me, and you're like, oh, I've been carrying this. And then you go to Singapore and you're like, oh, I'm not carrying this same thing that I was carrying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's elements of this here. I love, because to me, again, going back to the humanity part, like we all experience this in our own different ways, you know? Um, yeah, we all do. Like I'm just thinking about like the places where safety like feels like we just don't feel like we have access to it. The places where um like we feel like we're, yeah, this unsafe. It's like we're in a dangerous area, not for anything other than because of who we are, you know? Um like that's hard. That's hard. It's one thing to actually like come in and like do things to incite danger, and it's another thing to just be existing and to have that. Like one of the most wild things that's happened to me in the last month and a half was seeing in America a bunch of white men on top of a like a department store with bandanas over their face, holding rifles and being like, "We're just doing our American thing." I was like, "Wait, what? Wait, what? Like, a like this really is just like that's freedom. Like, wait, you're telling me that's freedom, that I can go out and just like do that? Like, I like, is that like, I didn't even understand that you could be that free. You could be that free to be like, yeah, completely. I feel completely not only safe, but entitled. This is my actual right and responsibility to go and do this here. I'm like, you're telling me that like that kind of freedom exists? Well, if that's the case, I want me some of that. I want me some
Wow.
of that.
Yes, that expression.
That expression, the
Wow.
ability. Like I would, and this is the thing, Brooke. This is where the anger comes back in, right?
Yes.
I'm like, you have that much freedom, and this is what you're doing with it. I am not impressed. I'm not impressed. Like what could we do with that freedom in a way that if you were able to come be a constructive part of the conversation so that we can come together and see like what how we might be able to wield that. You know, that to me is like I just recognize how powerful every individual person is. And I think that that is one of the biggest things that I think most people don't realize. They don't know how powerful they are. And in the absence of that knowing of how powerful they are, they start showing up in disempowering ways. They start giving their power to others. They're like, you intimidated me. No, you are intimidated. I've done nothing. I am living my life. You know, like if like I can have a conversation with you, Brooke, and the things that I'm saying with you, I know that like I'm like it's not intimidating to you. We're in the conversation. To other people, if I was having the same, if I'm bringing this energy, I did nothing, right? They would actually recoil. There would be
Wow.
there would be a thing there where they're like, whoa, I'm not like, hey, like, and I call this out because it's confronting, and it's I call it out because like this is it's important. I think as we're having these conversations here, it's important to see like here goes all the like this is how pervasive it is, and we come back to like why doing the work. This is why like I love the work of being a coach and why I have my own platform and why I definitely say yes to spending time with you, because every time I spend time with you I get to uncover more and more. I have never been in this energy. Well, not never, but I rarely get to be in this energy of like boom, I know I'm joyful and I'm excited
And
and
suck
I'm
it.
angry
And
and I'm
why are they
like
doing that with the freedom? Yeah.
exactly, and I'm
Yeah.
not impressed
Yeah.
simultaneously. It's like it's that's what I get with you. That dynamic love to me was like it's not this or that. There was space. It was the space for more than one thing to occur simultaneously. That is a fundamentally different way of approaching the world and so much more powerful than I have to be this way or that way.
And that is freedom, because then we don't have to be afraid of our own selves, because we can hold all of the realities that we're experiencing, all the energy and the motion, and that's everything that's coming up. The ultimate freedom is to go, yeah, I am here with it for
Yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Brooke, you brought up the word energy again, and I realized that I didn't like respond to that part there. Are you still interested in some of the things
I would
related to
love,
energy around it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. How do you take care?
So
I
I
know you
didn't
have
just
some
thought about.
really good playlists that you
Yeah.
listen to. I
Yeah,
know
so I
music
listen.
is part of it.
I if you look at my Spotify playlist, it is literally it. I listen to songs like over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like it's just the one song over again. So repeat, rewind, and on repeat are my favorite Spotify.
The feature is great.
Yeah, but I think
He
that's really
knows what he
important.
likes. He knows what he
Yeah,
likes.
I think that's important, Brooke, because like at the beginning of June, right after the killing of George Floyd, I organized an event that I called an open forum, where people were able to share and voice and witness experiences of racism in their lives, right? And it took a lot of energy to hold that. Right afterwards, I did there were 30 people on the call. We were all sharing some really just what was real for us. Shortly afterwards, I made a Facebook Live that was called "I'm an Angry Black Man." Right, and it's still something I externalized. The Facebook Live was called "I'm an Angry Black Man," not "Hi," like that expressed how I was an angry black man or I am an angry black man. They are
Yes.
different things. You notice how I'm
Yes,
like,
and
yeah,
and I mean, beautiful awareness, and I think um courage is being able to do the thing even though you're still dissociated from it a little bit. I mean, fuck
yeah,
yeah, man. It's
yeah,
great.
yeah. So what happened
So
then
you
was
went through
like,
this. It took a lot of energy. You did a lot. Like you just
I know,
responded. You had gas in the tank. You showed up after George Floyd's murder, and you took action. And then what?
yeah. And then I was drained. Brooke, I was drained, and like this is I think it's important. If I don't talk about this, I think I'll be missing something real. I was going on Twitter and I was like looking for like I was trying to like I was allowing anger to come because anger is a dangerous feeling for me, right? Like if I express anger the way other people express anger, the way that other people think about it, there, that is incredibly dangerous, right? But I was allowing it to happen. I was like oh, this is injustice, and I'm getting so angry. And what I realized was that like it was giving me energy, but it wasn't energy that was able to be sustained. The way I would look at it is like I'm not a like a health like I'm not all that healthy or like into nutrition that much, but I look at it as like the difference between if I'm feeling low and I like drink a can of Coca-Cola or something like that. I get like a sugar rush and it's like, wow, let's go. And then there's a sugar crash, right? I think after that I had like the crash. And so over the last few weeks, I've really been focused now on how do I develop sustainable energy? How do and I have a lot of distinctions around it. How do I cultivate my energy? I don't need to protect my energy anymore.
Mm.
Um, I don't mind my energy going up and down. Like I can play with that. But how do I cultivate my energy? How do I choose to use my energy? How do I fill up my energy tanks so that I can be able to share it. Usually, I have more energy than most people than I need, so I have a lot to also keep on giving. And so this is where like the playlist comes in because when I realized, because look, here's the thing: if like to do the to do the work of building your own power and to do the work of like taking on racism and however that looks like for you to do the work of choosing to be authentic. Work being authentic is one of the most challenging and confronting and difficult things that I've done. Like to you talk about the awareness there. It's like I had the things that I don't want to say that I realize I actually need to say in order to have an extra lens of real authenticity. It is courageous. It takes a lot. And so what happened for me was like this happened at the beginning of June and I was out for the whole week afterwards. And I realized I'm like, if I'm really going to be able to be a player in this game, if I'm going to continue to be able to do the work, I need to take the time to actually cultivate the right kind of energy that will allow me to sustain and continue to do the work because this work dies off if I don't have the energy. It is simply that. Do I have the energy to watch to really still be in the discomfort of being confronted with this, or actually like I need to be able to have the energy to take this on and do my regular job. And I have a child coming in for my first child in a month and a half. Like I need to have the energy for all of that. There's no backing down here. It's about me stepping up and being able to cultivate more. So my playlist, this is what changed. I listen to, I have this thing. One of the number one ways I cultivate energy, I do meditation, I do qigong, and I really align the chi within me, and I shake my booty. I
Mm.
shake my ass. So like if I'm out, if I'm not dancing and the
Yes, you
booty
do.
ain't moving, yeah. It
It's
does
not gonna
like
work unless
it
the
doesn't
booty
work. It
moves.
doesn't
Like the energy won't come.
it doesn't come. It doesn't like it's really interesting. It's like I can sit here and be like, mm-hmm. It's not energy inducing, but like if there's a little bit of like rolling in it, but
So
it's odd, but it's like that's part of the work. Do what you must to be able to stay in the game, because this is an infinite game, right? It's not like there's going to be variations of racism and variations of bringing out even more authenticity, or bringing out more of your power, or collaborating with others. Like the only way that we lose is if we get out of the game. And one of the easiest way to get out of the game is to be like inundated with things that take away your energy. So like that is priority number one.
wow.
Priority
Yeah.
number one for me is like I wake up in the morning, I do my qigong, I listen to a song, I shake the booty, and then I get to work. Because otherwise, it's just drain
Yeah.
all the way
Well,
through.
that's part of the work.
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't get to do it. I don't get to stay in the game unless I do that. And I love it, Niiamah, because I think this is something I've been thinking about a lot. There's this like attitude of, oh, well, it's selfish for me to be happy right now, or it's selfish for me to have joy, or I don't want to express something that's good because there's all this horrible thing happening in the world. But actually, there's a sense of responsibility that I'm hearing. I'm responsible to shake my booty so that I can keep doing my work.
Yes.
It's a gift I'm giving all of the rest of you. For my
Yes.
qigong in the morning is actually is part of my leadership, right?
Yes, bro. That is exactly it. That is exactly it. And there's a call that I have. The invitation is like, in me doing that, I'm able to cultivate energy, and then I have energy to bring to this conversation, and someone else might watch it, and you're like, if you're energized, other people might get, and we're able to actually use that energy toward sustaining the change. You know, what was really hard for me was being in so many environments where people weren't managing their energy, or they were protecting their energy, and in doing so they weren't actually energizing others as well, right? And so there was like this wall. It's like, how are
And
you
then we don't
doing?
have the collaboration again, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? I mean, like, look, this is an unprecedented time where the affronts to our energies are coming from all, like, the entire world simultaneously is feeling it, you know. um and there's like, I had one of the biggest energy drains for me at the beginning of COVID was the fact that like I thrive in chaos, and I wanted to be I'm like, let's go, like there's work to get done here, like what are you doing, like we
Much time.
at,
Go.
exactly, create, right? Because I know like the three pillars of being able to navigate uncertainty, at least for me. They're curiosity, it's community, and it's coaching and creation, right? Like, and so, but that was so draining to me because people weren't in a space where they could actually be, where they could actually grow, right? Or like there was different work that was taking place there, and it was incredibly draining because I'm like, is it, here goes again, it goes back to safe, is it safe of me to go and try and talk about how we can move forward? Is it safe with me to be able to talk about, like, actually this is what we need to do, even if we're not moving forward, how can I help you be with where you are right now so that you can come back, come back to you, and then like decide, given that everything has changed, where am I headed now, you know? So I think I appreciate you bringing energy into this conversation. Like without it, like, we're not being real.
The authenticity of you being you is being uncomfortable when other people haven't got their energy figured out, right? That is actually your gift. So that sense of discomfort of like, what are y'all doing? It's the same. What the hell are y'all doing on top of the building with the guns? Like, that that ability to speak, that ability to recognize internally for you, have so much bodily awareness and self-awareness to go, okay, something doesn't sit right with me on this, and then to have the courage to speak it or to act in a different way as a direct to shake the booty as like literally the direct counterpoint to what else is going on or to the other examples of how we're dealing with things is your power. That's a gift that you give us. I'm really grateful for the gift that you are living as an example.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. And there's two things. Firstly, I want to receive that. So thank you. Like I like, because I could feel myself wanting to deflect that. Yeah.
Thank you for showing up, Niiamah. That's the core bottom line. Thank you for showing up.
Like, and I want to, like, my gratitude for you shows up from the standpoint of like, you are part of this journey for me. I cannot pretend that I woke up and I was just bestowed upon like the gift. It wasn't like, oh, I turned 30, I realized I was a Black man, and then here goes the gift of power. Like, I am a recovering people pleaser. I am my persona in different circles is known as misunderstood chameleon, you know? And so what you're actually seeing is me going through the process of shedding that which is not me and allowing little bits, little here and there, parts of me to become a little bit more courageous. So it's not like this like absolute courage. And I want to make sure I call that out, because I don't know if people know the work of being authentic. It's usually just described as be authentic, be you, and I'll typically do like be fully yourself. And I'll typically add the word more. I'm just like, just be more you, be more authentic, be more fully expressed. Like, even if it's just 0.1%, that's more than you had access to the day before, And so I really, I know I said yes to this. I know I choose to spend time with you because you're someone who helps me be able to explore something else. There's going to be a conversation that happens in the future that like I'm going to say things to them because I was willing to say it here for the first time. I'm getting a chance to practice what is it like to be in an energized state and still be all these different things. This is not I don't get to practice this, I can practice it with you. And so like there's courage involved here. And later on, there'll be something else that like, because we've had this conversation, I can go a step further, a step that I don't even know is possible right now because I haven't even been able to fathom it.
Courage is a muscle. And I love that you're saying that because first of all, when we're working on that self-expression, when you're becoming more authentic, more yourself, or letting more of yourself out, some of it's like, I didn't even know I had that in there. So how are you like you're calling out the work in a very important way, because even finding the anger, finding different things that were maybe inaccessible even to you. It's not just that they were inaccessible to the world, that you weren't showing them externally. They weren't even here. You weren't noticing them yet. I mean, yes, it's courageous. It's scary. And that is a muscle. And so by practicing it, and this is where the sense of responsibility that I hear so deeply in you and your desire for service is, as you're doing it, you get to be ready for that conversation. You got to show up energized today and give a gift to the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. I'm just deeply appreciative of you. I'm deeply appreciative of being in this conversation with you. I'm judging myself right now. And this time I'm like, did I talk too much? Was I too energized? Was there enough back and forth going on? And I just like, I presence it because I want to be real with it here. I want to make what's happening internally also something that other people can see too, because otherwise, because again, it goes back to that 2 to 3% versus the 98%. I'm not any different than any person out there. Mm-hmm. I may have and I want to make sure that is clear and that is known here. I am doing the work. I'm like, the work is not done. I'm not woke. I'm waking. Like there's this element here that I just really want to call in. I'm grateful for you for giving me a chance. And I do say the word practice because like this is real. This is real for me here. And I know that like the stages that I am meant to play on are only going to continue to grow the conversations that I'm meant to be a part of, and the people, like, it's just going to continue to grow. And I'm really so grateful that I get to grow with you. Like, when I look out to my vision of the future, you're there. You know, that's like, I know the power that you have. I know that, like, you're one of the few people that I can come to that can pull out something for me, that can create enough space for me to be able to explore and see something more of myself than I could before. And I don't have to be anything other than me with you. And for that, I'm just incredibly grateful. You are
Mm.
amazing at what you do. You are amazing in the space that you create. And I really value you.
It is a privilege to hear that and to experience you. Thank you, Niiamah. Whew, okay, I'm getting it now. I also see this as practice for myself, and the fact that it's like, okay, if I was like a tennis player and I wanted to practice tennis, I can go use the wall for a while, but I really need someone else to rally with, right? And what you've done for me today is let me play tennis with the intention that I brought was for you to be centered, for to hear your story. I think you're amazing. I want people to hear your story. That's like a big part of um what I cherish about your masculine presence, your love, your wisdom, all that I know about you. I wanted to get to see you rallying and just kind of play. So it is practice. Thank you for giving me practice, giving for showing up so that I can play in this space, with the intention that, and you know this for coaching. This is a bit of an aside. I've said to you before, sometimes I feel like I hide behind questions. That's a beautiful thing about getting to be a coach is we get to ask a lot of questions. And doing this and being here with you today and the conversations that I'm going to do for the rest of the month is me not asking a question. It's not a question to me that I want to show up and I want to highlight powerful Black men. So I'm showing up without a question and asking some along the way. So thank you for really answering the statement that I made, which was that I desire to have these conversations. Thank you for being my tennis partner. I played tennis like twice in my life. I don't know why that was the one that came up.
I'm like, you should have chosen me because I've only played twice myself.
Okay, so this is our third tennis practice together. Okay, so as we're gonna wrap up our conversation, thank you also for managing beautifully with all the tech stuff. And I'm really hoping that people can actually see what's going on. I have no idea. It says we're on live. I love that. Okay. Thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you, Niiamah, for dealing with the tech stuff with me. I'm going to be making a donation in Niiamah's name to the NAACP's Black Legal Fund. Am I getting that right? Legal Defense Fund. Legal Defense Fund. I had it written down on so I didn't miss it. And so I'm going to encourage people. I'll put it in the comments about that organization so that people can check it out and they can have an understanding of why it was interesting to you, why that mattered. And then in addition, I really want to encourage people to go to niiamahashong.com. I also want to encourage them to go to your Facebook page. So Niiamah, if they wanted to watch the I'm an Angry Black Man video, if they want to learn about the reconciliation and racism work that you're doing in part of groups, like tell us how they find it. Yeah. And how they can continue this conversation with you. Wonderful.
So the elements here are, if you're looking to watch some of the things I do, I like to have conversations there. I think one of the best places to see that is to go to niiamahashong.com/YouTube and just go to my YouTube channel. That's essentially what I'm saying. Like, I'm someone that's like in the process of doing the work. I'm documenting it and sharing it out into the world. So you get to hear that story there. And if someone's looking to go further with me or to like explore more of the world here, yeah, go to niiamahashong.com. I have a tribe of people where we're doing this kind of work consistently. And finding, like, my thing is, it goes back to that place about the container for multiple possibilities to exist. And so like I keep curating and cultivating that. So if anyone's interested in being in that space there, that you can just go to niiamahashong.com for that. And we'll continue the conversation there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Niiamah. I'm going to take us off live. Niiamah, stay on with me because I just want to, close out with you. I love you so much. I'm going to just say that again when I get out. That was what was happening. I'm just going to say that, but I'm going to go off live. We're going to do another conversation. The next one's coming up July 6th. That's with Braden Anderson, who actually grew up in the same small town as I did, or, is from small town Alberta. Now he lives in New York. Actually, there's a connection there. So can't wait to speak with him. Thank you, Niiamah. We're going off live. This has been a great practice. It's been practice. Okay.